Hello and welcome to NDTV 24/7. I'm Priyanshi Sharma and let's start this show with a mega NDTV exclusive. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar at the NDTV Decoding G20 conclave made strong statements on China and Pakistan. He called China, claiming Arunachal Pradesh as its own in a new map, absurd and an old habit. He also took a dig at Pakistan, calling it a losing stock in the stock market that nobody talks about, while he termed India's G20 presidency as unique. Minister S. Jaishankar also spoke about how Prime Minister Narendra Modi has guided India's foreign policy, asking the minister to keep India's interests first to import fuel from Russia even after Russia invaded Ukraine. Take a look at the highlights of this interview right ahead of the G20 summit in Delhi.
As India gears up for the grand finale of a successful G20 presidency, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar sat down for an engaging and in-depth conversation with NDTV Editor-in-Chief Sanjay Pugalia. In a room full of diplomats, foreign policy watchers and senior NDTV journalists. Jaishankar, describing India's G20 presidency as a game-changer, he said that the country that commands respect today in the world is India.
It should also be a country that commands respect, and that country happens to be India. It is unique today because the global situation is unique and the G20 presidency is today unique. We have held many meetings. We have tried to build a consensus. Collectively within the G20, there will be a shared interest in coming out with a common solution and a common statement about all the key problems of the world.
The minister added that India has taken G20 out of the conference rooms and taken it to the people. As India emerges as the voice of the global south, the minister said that India has the responsibility of the global south and has forwarded its agenda at G20. On the latest China irritant of putting out a map claiming Aksai Chin as its own territory, the minister said that this is China's old habit.
Just by putting out a map claiming territories, some of which are part of India, I think doesn't make that. These are very much part of India.
The minister also took a swipe at Pakistan.
You can say it is a verdict of the market. Losing stock mein kaun baat karta hai?
Jaishankar also called the abrogation of Article 370 as one of the biggest achievements of the Modi government and asked the naysayers to go to Lal Chowk and see the difference. Praising Prime Minister Modi, the External Affairs Minister said that he is a very curious person, has very deep knowledge of global politics.
Ye yudh ka yug nahi hai. This is what he said when he was meeting President Putin in Samarkand. He, in that one sentence, articulated what were the views of very diverse countries. He is a person with great curiosity.
Talking about a new world order, Jaishankar said that India has to be ambitious, but the ambitions have to be matched with performance. The veteran diplomat also had a thing or two to say on the art of diplomacy.
Only hopeful and optimistic people come to diplomacy.
Bureau Report, NDTV.
China has even in the past put out maps which claim the territories which are not China's, which belong to other countries. This is an old habit of theirs. It is not something which is new. It started in the 1950s. These are very much part of India. We are very clear what our territories are. This government is very clear about what we need to defend our territories. Just making absurd claims doesn't make other people's territory yours. Let's be very clear on that. One part of me is still amazed how we put up with the situation till 2019. You want to see the change? Go to Lal Chowk. Forget about everything else. Actually, we kept that state backward for reasons of politics. I saw how the rest of the world used this issue to pressurize us, to damage us, to tighten us when they wanted. The article, what we did with Article 370, I would definitely put it because I think it has long-term, benefits and the rest of the world accepts it. It is only we who had this fear कि नहीं पता नहीं दुनिया क्या कहेगी. This year, it is special for two reasons. One, the world today in 2023 is a far more complicated place than it has been for a long time. The second reason is, in such a situation, who can step forward and try to find a middle ground? So which country is in a position today to address both divides, to help find a common ground, help search for a solution? And such a country, should not be just be neutral. It should also be a country that commands respect, which has had achievements to its own credit, and that country happens to be India. It is unique today because the global situation is unique and the G20 presidency is today unique, and frankly what we have done in the last 10 years is also unique. We are doing our presidency in a truly global manner. Those who are global south know inside that they are global south.
China.
Let me repeat. Those who are really global south know really inside that they are global south. Global south is partly a reflection of development, obviously a reflection of income, a reflection of history, what happened to them 100 years ago, 200 years ago. But at the end of the day, global south is a place in the heart. You have to behave like global south to be part of global south. A global south are those who, whatever their limited resources, they will do things for other countries because there is that feeling today that we are part of a family, that your problems are my problems. I don't think India should be depicted as a China plus one. I don't think you're being fair to yourself. I would say countries will invest in India, we ourselves will invest in India when we actually show our capability, our competitiveness, we create the infrastructure, we have the human skills, we have the institutional basis to become a modern economy which is contributing more to the global economy. The world will come to India, not because India is a China plus one, but because India has the capacities and the capability, the international credibility and the capability which will make us a good destination, and I think that is happening. I think the world is getting more multipolar. I don't think today global decisions are any more a prerogative of a small group, nor are they a prerogative of two countries. Even before the Ukraine conflict started, we actually felt that the Security Council no longer authentically represented the entirety of the membership. I think the members of the UN themselves have to wake up to the realization that the longer they put off reforms, the less representative the Security Council is. Frankly, the less the credibility of the UN would be. People will then go and do things outside the UN. Not necessarily in the G20, they'll go and do it in other ways. Already by the time we reached retreat, there was a little bit of talking had started. Chandrayaan is going to happen, landing is going to happen. By the second day, already even in the BRICS, the talk had shifted to Chandrayaan. Speech which President Ramaphosa gave, and it was like the Chandrayaan was like a collective, everybody felt part of it. In fact, he said that. He said, I'm going to sit next to Prime Minister Modi and I hope some of it will rub off onto me. So that kind of sentiment was very strong. And in fact, at one stage, I remember there was a long table, a U-shaped table, maybe 150 people were sitting there. And people just spontaneously got up. So Prime Minister actually had to go the length of the table, individually shaking hands, accepting. You had that sense in the BRICS that this was not just India's achievement, that very large part of the world was with us. That, as President Ramaphosa said, your achievement we see as our achievement.
And while clearly the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar made strong comments against China and Pakistan, he talked serious business, there were also some candid moments. Take a look.
We are a nation of 1.4 billion people. We are fifth largest economy. You take a stand, you say it confidently, people accept it. But if you don't take a stand and you are hesitant about pushing your own views, अब दुनिया चढ़ जाती है आपके सर।
उन्होंने एक बात कही ग्रीन क्रेडिट की, और उसके साथ ये भी कहा कि कार्बन क्रेडिट के आगे की बात करें, और कार्बन क्रेडिट का बहुत लोग मजे भी ले रहे हैं। इसका क्या मतलब था?
नहीं, देखिए, मैं नहीं कहूँगा, ये जो प्रधानमंत्री के मन में है वो जब वो स्पष्ट करना चाहते हैं वो बिल्कुल करते हैं, जब वो थोड़ा इसको ओपेक रखना चाहते हैं वो भी जानबूझ के रखते हैं। इफ यू लुक ड्यूरिंग कोविड, there were countries which stocked 8 times the population of that country in terms of vaccines. 8 times. And next to it were countries who did not get one vial of vaccine. How can you allow that in this day and age? You know, there are rules in this country, in fact in most democratic economies, saying, what are called antitrust. किसी की monopoly नहीं होनी चाहिए. You know, one company should not run all the businesses. You have a antitrust at home, but you will allow in the world economy, a single source or a single geography to control most things. True. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's actually very dangerous.
आप लोगों की फॉरेन पॉलिसी का एक सबसे बड़ा सक्सेस क्या आप जानते हैं? कि मीडिया का कोई भी कन्वर्सेशन, ऐसी कोई भी बातचीत आजकल पाकिस्तान के बिना पूरी हो जाती है। लेकिन हम लोग हैं मिस्चीवियस लोग।
मैंने सोचा कि आप रुकने वाले हैं उसके बाद।
13 अगस्त को श्रीनगर में थे, लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर मनोज सिन्हा से बात कर रहे थे, तो वहाँ एक नारा लग रहा था कि आर हो या पार कश्मीर हमारा है। तो मैंने, गवर्नर उसको लीड कर रहे थे, तो मैंने उनसे पूछा कि ये नारा आपकी रैली में लगा है, तो क्या कहते हैं आप? तो बोला मैं नहीं कहूँगा, ये विषय विदेश मंत्रालय का है। तो ओवर टू यू।
I said, you want to see the change? Go to Lal Chowk and come back and tell me what you have seen. नहीं, देखिए ऐसा है, एक तो जो आपने कहा कि आजकल अगर पाकिस्तान की बात जो है कम हो रही है, तो इसको मैं क्या कहूँ, एक किस्म से you can say it is a verdict of the market. I mean, losing stock में कौन बात करता है?
एक larger picture with your experience, and you are navigating most complicated things currently. What kind of world we are going to see? Multipolar, that means that broken world actually.
You see, that word broken is a very loaded word, because would you like to be united and under somebody else's control? Or would you like to be broken in inverted commas and have freedom of action? वहाँ अभी भी याद है जो राष्ट्रपति रामाफोसा ने कहा that this is not only India's achievement. All of us today are feeling that Chandrayaan up there is also ours. I think there are very few countries, other people's spaceships went up. I don't know if anybody else evoked the same sentiment that we did.
As you know, sir, I am new in your country, and one of the ways I'm trying to learn about your country is to read your book, The India Way.
All right. I can suggest better ways. But in diplomacy is not for impatient people. It's something you have to plug away and keep plugging away. It's in some ways almost as patient as the army.
Since you observed that word, I noticed that word, leading power. So conventionally people have used the word superpower. Do you think great power in the context of India is a better word?
I would say, देखिए बहुत सोच समझ के we arrived at a certain formulation. So I think leading power, see, that era of superpower I think is over.
I am more fascinated with great power.
Okay, we will continue this debate some other time.
And now we have good news for all of you. The price of domestic LPG cylinders has been slashed by 200 rupees in an important move ahead of polls in 5 states as well as the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. The union government has announced a subsidy of 200 rupees on all domestic LPG cylinders. With this, the beneficiaries of the Prime Minister's Ujjwala Yojana will get a subsidy of 400 rupees in total after the first 200 rupees subsidy for them was announced in March this year. Union Minister Anurag Thakur called the decision a gift for women women from Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the occasion of Raksha Bandhan. Time for a short break now. News continues on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, as a part of the Dettol Banega Swasth India campaign, we are meeting doctors who have dedicated their lives to taking healthcare to the last mile. Our team met Dr. Arunoday Mondal, who is from Kolkata and has received the Padma Shri Award in 2020 for providing affordable medical care for over 20 years in the Sundarbans remote areas. He treats 12,000 patients annually, offering free medicine at his charitable hospital near the India-Bangladesh border. Let's take a look at his story.
After a journey of over 100 kilometers by train, auto rickshaw, boat and finally a motorbike, Dr. Arunoday Mondal reaches his clinic, Sujan Sundarbans, bringing affordable health care to these remote islands. The journey takes over 5 hours. Dr. Mondal, who is also known as Sundarbanes Sujan, says he treats more than 160 people, 80% of whom are poor every weekend. He also arranges for their medicines, conducts medical camps and even blood donation drives.
Our commitment was to provide free medicines of any cost to these patients. Actually, I purchased this medicine initially from CDMU, Community Development Medicinal Unit, but recently I purchased all these medicines from Pradhan Mantri Jana Aushadhi Kendra at a very cheap rate and quality products.
As his patients liken him to God, he says what alarms him is the number of patients of hypertension and diabetes among rural folk, resulting in more serious illness and strokes.
তো আমাদের এখান থেকে যেতে গেলে তো 4 থেকে 500 টাকা তো লাগে আর তো ডাক্তারবাবুকে দিতে হয় তার জন্য এখান থেকে আমাদের খুব ভালো পরিষেবা পাওয়া যায় যেখানে আমাদের 400 থেকে 500 টাকার জায়গায় 100 টাকার বিনিময়ে আমরা ওষুধও পাচ্ছি এবং ভালো পরিষেবাও পাওয়া যাচ্ছে
Dr. Mondal says he was born and brought up in the rural Sundarbans and hence he simply wishes to give back to his community.
The government health facilities has yet not reached to the terminal people of this area. I committed to provide scientific medical treatment to the downtrodden people of this area as far as possible.
What is required for the well-being of the people in Sundarbans are outdoor clinics at these islands to treat them for common health issues.
I think if charitable or a medical unit at every island can be set up consisting of a doctor, a nursing staff, a health worker and another 2 or 3 assistants along with quality medicines, and if they moved from one area to another area at a regular interval, then the peoples of the periphery, they can get the treatment easily.
Reaching these remote parts of Sundarbans is difficult. Making sure that healthcare services reach these remote areas is a bigger challenge. Often citizens of these islands have restricted access to healthcare because of challenges of connectivity and distance. Honored with the Padma Shri, Dr. Arunoday Mondal is actively engaged in tackling this massive healthcare challenge in these areas. With camera person Jaishankar in Kumirmari Island of Sundarbans, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
That's all we have for you in this show. Thanks very much for watching. News continues on the other side of this short break.